Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley. Today, we've got large school predictions for Week 12. This is the third week of high school football playoffs here in Missouri. So, I've only got 18 games to predict today. So, I'm hoping that I'll be able to push this to 10 minutes. We'll see. I may just get over that mark and, make it to 11 minutes or something like that. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll start with maybe West Plains and Bolivar. I took Bolivar losing in the first round, and now they're in the district championship game. I ended up, taking Monette in an upset just for fun, because I got to watch them over the summer at Mizzou in a little, it was like minimal contact camp, like no pads, but, there was a little bit of tackling going on there. But, they looked solid and they looked fired up. They looked ready for the season, but then ultimately they only ended up winning 3 games this year. I did take them, I think they won in week 9, so they had won at the right time. So I thought, maybe they stacked a second win with it. Unfortunately, they could not do that. They lose to Bolivar, and then the week after that, so last Friday, they beat Carl Junction. I had Carl Junction winning the district championship over West Plains, so it only feels right since Bolivar has, messed up a prediction 2 times already in 2 weeks. I might as well just go ahead and take Bolivar. So if I get another Bolivar prediction wrong, it's their fault because they'd end up losing. So give me Bolivar by 11. I'm not going to bet against them this time. Festus versus Perryville. Perryville, they're 10-1, but I don't know. I feel like they're not the most elite team. I don't think they're able to take down Festus. Festus, I've got them losing in the Final Four to Warrenton, which we'll get to that one as well. But I feel like Festus is the better team. So I will take them by 19. That's my largest point total in Class 4. Pleasant Hill versus Warrensburg. I feel like I need to take an upset here. Pleasant Hill beat Warrensburg. I think it was week 5 this season. It was by 7 points, 21-14. So these teams have already matched up. And, like I said, Pleasant Hill won that game. It's at Pleasant Hill, district championship is in week 5. Pleasant Hill went to Warrensburg and won. I feel like Warrensburg returns the favor. I think they go to Pleasant Hill and beat the Roosters by 8 points. That will be my point total there. Parkway North versus Orchard Farm. I got to watch Parkway North in week 5 this year, and they got shut out. They lost 7-0 to Hazelwood East. Very low scoring game. And, East is a really good football team, obviously. So, Parkway North, they played some pretty tough opponents. Orchard Farm, they've had, I don't want to say it's a cupcake schedule. That's disrespectful. They played an easier schedule. They're sitting at 8-1. They've got they are 8-1 coming out of the regular season, I should say. I believe they're 9-1 now. Let me double check that. They are 10-1. I apologize. So they played some good opponents overall. Last week, it was Westminster. They lost in the district championship to them the year before. And, got their revenge last Friday. I think that Orchard Farm keeps it going. I think they win the district championship in what is believed as an upset in the St. Louis area. I'll say Eagles by 3 points. Warrenton versus Hannibal. This one scares me a little bit. I have Warrenton as my state runner-ups. I took them beating Kirksville on Friday night, in my initial bracket before the playoffs even started. And, that was a bold prediction already. Because, Kirksville had beat Hannibal for the first time in 30 years this year, and I took them winning a second time, and they didn't even make it to that game. They ended up losing to Mexico in week 10. So, I feel like Hannibal could do it. I think that they could beat Warrenton, but Warrenton's they're playing really good. I believe they're undefeated, if I'm not wrong. They are 10-0. So, I can't bet against them. I have them as my state runner-ups. I think that they make it there, and I'm gonna ride with them until I'm proven otherwise. So give me Warrenton by 6 points. Kearney versus Savannah will be our Class 4 game of the week. Savannah just beat Smithville 11-10 this past week. Very low-scoring game. And Kearney actually made pretty quick work of Van Horn this past Friday. I feel like that one was kind of expected, though. Kearney is hosting the district championship game. I got to go see them this year. They're a good football team. I think really the only team in Class 4 that can stop them this year is Lutheran North. So, they will end up playing in the Final Four. But right now, the focus is Savannah. I think they win this game over the Savages. Savannah's had a good season. They've beat teams like East Buchanan, Smithville last week. They beat Maryville. So they've put together some good wins. It's going to be a tough game for Kearney, but overall, I think they end up getting it done. Class 5 scoreboard. We'll start with Helias in Lebanon. I feel like this one probably going to be one of the furthest apart games out of every single one that I covered so far this week. Helias is a good football team. Lebanon did not expect them to make the district championship game. They looked really good against Cap City last week. They dropped 44 points on the road. But I feel like they just don't do that again. I think the Crusaders win this one by 28 points. Hazelwood East versus MICDS. I'm a big fan of these Hazelwood East guys. The coaching staff is great. But MICDS just feels like the right pick here. I feel like they're the better football team. So I do think they end up winning this one by 9 points. MICDS has some great pieces on this team like Brian Gould. And I think that they'll just end up overpowering East on Friday night. Branson versus Republic. I'm going to take an upset here if you want to call it that. Branson is a undefeated football team right now. And, going into the playoffs, before I even really looked at the brackets all that much, extensively, I was thinking, Branson's going to win this one. But I don't know about it. I think Republic's a better football team. I think that the Tigers get it done by 12 points. This would set up a rematch from last year, Republic versus Helias. And it would be at Republic again. I believe it was there last year as well. So that ends up being kind of a revenge game for Helias next week if both of those teams end up making it there. If not, Branson will end up hosting Helias. I guess I'm kind of counting out Lebanon. So in that scenario, if Lebanon wins and Branson wins, then Lebanon gets to host Branson. It's all over the place. It's like they try to make sure that you don't have 2 away games in a row, but then there's certain priorities and stuff. So, it's kind of iffy. But right now, all that matters, Branson playing Republic. I think Republic wins by 12 points. Cardinal Ritter versus Cape Central. I think you guys know that I'm sort of a fan of Cape Central. They've got a really good football team, but they're playing a top 2, maybe top 3 team in the state here with Cardinal Ritter. So I can't take Cape Central. I'm sorry about it. I don't think the Tigers win this one. I think Cardinal Ritter, they get it done by 17 points. They're at home, so Cape has to travel up to them on Friday night. I don't think it's going to go all that well. Lafayette versus Washington. We kind of expected this one to be Eureka versus Lafayette in a rematch of a game that ended up being 31-15 Eureka win a few weeks ago. But Washington gets the upset. They're hot. They're sitting at 8-3. They're getting hot at the right time. I believe they're on a 5-6 game win streak right now. If I'm not wrong, please correct me if I am. But it's Lafayette. I think this game ends up being close. In all honesty, Washington beat Eureka, so nothing really says that they can't do it to Lafayette. But I feel like I just need to take the Lancers here. I'm going to say 4-point win. Platte County versus St. Pius X will be the Class 5 game of the week. I almost went to this one, but I crunched the numbers. I looked at how many games I've gone to in each class, and my goal is to go to 2 in each class. I've already gone to 2 for Class 5, so it just didn't really feel right to go to Platte County and St. Pius X. So I think Platte County wins this one. All right, let's get on to the Class 6 scoreboard. We'll start with Seckman and Jackson. This one, I don't know if it'll be close. Now, you may be asking which one I'm saying will win big because, most people will see that 10-0 from Seckman and be impressed, but they played a really easy schedule this year. I don't think it competes whatsoever with what Jackson's schedule has looked like. I think even though Jackson has to travel up to Seckman, they're the way better team in this game. I think they win this one by 20 points. Nixa versus Joplin. This one happened earlier on in the season, and Nixa won by like 30 points, somewhere around that, 30 to 40 points. So I think it may not be exactly the slaughter like that again, but I don't know if it'll necessarily be close this Friday. I think Nixa ends up winning this game by 24 points. Blue Spring South versus Liberty. You know, I was excited to go up to Blue Spring South this past Friday. Unfortunately, was not able to do it. Liberty, they took out one of my final four teams, Liberty North. It was a 13-10 game, I believe. They ended up getting it done, and that takes out one of my teams. So, you know, I don't want to say I'm salty about it. I'm not too worried about it, but, you know, I'm not going to take them. I think Blue Spring South ends up winning this game. They're hosting the district championship, so I say they win it by 13. Troy Buchanan versus Rockbridge. This is a big one. Troy Buchanan is undefeated. Rockbridge 9-1. So Rockbridge's one loss was Park Hill in week 1. You know, that's rough. They probably should not have lost to Park Hill. It was a tough game. So I'm not worried about it because it's week 1. Troy, they've played a pretty all right schedule. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that it's a hard schedule because I really don't necessarily think that it was hard, but I also won't say that it was necessarily an easy schedule. I think they just kind of had a middle of the pack schedule. Rockbridge, you know, theirs was like, you know, here and there. The one that I want to pinpoint, the best win from both of these teams, I would say, is Rockbridge's 30-23 win, I believe, in overtime against Helias. It was Helias' homecoming. That was a big game. They ended up getting that one done, which was basically the CMAC championship game. I feel like that's one that they've hung their hat on, and I feel like any program would if they're able to beat Helias. That's a great football team. I feel like Troy just hasn't had that kind of win. They had a massive win against Francis Howell this year. I don't think they do too much winning against Francis Howell, and I do not mean that as disrespect. That's just kind of a historical thing that I'm saying there. I feel like Francis Howell's kind of had the upper hand in the matchup history. Rockbridge also beat Francis Howell as well. So if you're going to say that Troy's best win is Francis Howell, that's, you know, Rockbridge's second best win, maybe third best win. So even though Rockbridge is going up to Troy, I still think they get it done. I think it ends up being a close game. Give me the Bruins by 8 points. CBC versus Kirkwood. I must say, if it's Jackson versus CBC or Jackson versus Kirkwood next week, I'm very enticed by that. I'm excited for that. That may end up being where I'm going. I may go down to Jackson. I think how it's going is if Seckman wins, it's either Kirkwood host or CBC host, whoever wins that game. Seckman has no chance of hosting. If Jackson wins, they host if CBC wins, but Jackson will go to Kirkwood if Kirkwood wins because Jackson and Kirkwood are both being hosted this week. So hopefully you guys are able to follow along with that one. But, you know, that's not important right now. Right now we're worried about the district championship game, CBC versus Kirkwood. CBC's rolling. You know, I don't know how many teams are really going to be able to stop them. I have them losing in the Final Four. We'll see if that happens. You know, going to Jackson is definitely not an easy thing if that ends up happening. So I will take CBC by 17 this week. We'll see how far they continue to go. Class 6 game of the week. It's got to be Lee Summit North versus Lee Summit. This is a massive rivalry game. You know, North has had the upper hand the past few years. But Lee Summit, man, they're looking good this year. I have Lee Summit North going to the championship game. I took him over Nixa and CBC, but I ended up not taking them as my state champions to play it safe because I'm nervous that they end up losing next week against Nixa, and then that's my state champion gone in the state quarterfinals. So I ended up taking them to state, but not as the winner. So it looks weird when I do that, but you know, I was playing a little too safe there. It is what it is there, but I am gonna take Lee Summit North in this game. I think they can get it done. So that's all we got for today. Archie in Appleton City tomorrow at 7:00, and I'll have the highlights around 10 to 11 in the morning on Saturday. It's just, you know, how tired I'm feeling when I get home. It's about a 2-hour and 45-minute drive to Archie, so it'll just all play into when I get home and how I'm feeling. If I edit before I go to sleep or if I wake up in the morning and edit, that will decide if it's at 10 or 11. So that's all I've got for today. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. See you next time.